My name is Unika Saad. I am the co-founder and CEO of Yuser. Yuser is a media sharing app. It's a little bit of a, we like to call it next generation approach to media sharing. We created a platform that rewards users for their contribution to network growth. We created this very interesting viral gamification engine that rewards basically users who are basically really engage in creating a community around their content and around their presence online. That's basically Yuser in a nutshell, nice. as quickly as I can get it. Yeah. I am Chief Operations Officer. Sounds very big words, but basically it means that I try to do whatever I can to help to grow the company. I'm involved a lot in the gamification part, so trying to see how those viral mechanisms work within video games and bring that into the social networking space. I have a lot of experience working with influencers, so I know that space quite a bit. And I try to make sure that at all points in time when we develop this app, we think about our end users and what is it that they want. I also got really involved in blockchain technology recently. So I try to educate people a little bit, try to explain what blockchain, what Bitcoin is all about. It's a very, very new industry, and a lot of people still don't know kind of where this is going.
Cool. If London could do one thing to improve the business climate for you, what would that be?
Business climate in general.
Just to make it easier to start your company, grow your company.
I think one of the things that it's quite difficult. It's difficult to, as a startup, very early stage, to know how to connect all the dots. So how to go from we're just here in our basement developing this thing to scaling a big company. So any kind of help that we were able to get us to that point, it was always extremely, and it is extremely appreciated. And sometimes it can be also difficult for people who start small technology startups to know how to talk to big venture capital firms. Mm-hmm. So additionally, for us, that's something that's specific to our company, is that because we're in the cryptocurrency and blockchain space, we focus a lot on connecting the dots within that industry, which is still very fragmented and very new. And we haven't perhaps focused so much on the local community. So this is something that kind of we're trying to engage with a little bit more now.
Great. What's one advantage that London has over another community? Asked another way, why are you trying to grow your company here versus another market?
I still think that there's a lot of potential here in London. It's obviously extremely good that it's so close to cities like Toronto, where you can go, and this is what we do all the time. We go to Toronto pretty much every 2 weeks. But also, there is a little bit of a tech community vibe from the Waterloo region and those people there. So I think that London is kind of strategically located in between those two hubs. So I think perhaps it can step up to the game a little bit more, but also I think it is a good place to grow.
Great. Have you used any of Tech Alliance's services? If so, which ones, and how have they benefited you?
Yeah, so we became a Tech Alliance member quite a while ago, actually, and they've been super helpful. We use the Amazon servers, so that's been a lot of help, for a startup like ourselves.
Can you explain that a little bit more, what that means there?
So we basically get Amazon credits for our servers. So when you become a Tech Alliance member, you basically, I don't remember the exact numbers, how much you get, but it's very helpful when you're in that early stage to have some of the server costs covered for you. Yeah. And then I did actually a little workshop with Tech Alliance as well, the breakfast series. Mm-hmm. So I was teaching people, as I said, a little bit about Bitcoin, a little bit about blockchain. Okay. Another thing that, actually this is part of the Tech Week. There's like a mentorship series for high schools. Yeah. So I'm also involved in that. Hopefully I'll hear back soon. Maybe I'll teach some kids about Bitcoin this time.
They're great. Yeah, I've done it a couple times. Yeah. It's a lot of fun to get out there. Have you used any of the other entrepreneurial supports in the city, like LADC, Small Business Center, the Campus Linked Accelerators?
Yeah, we got connected to a couple of different people. We haven't really used their services very much. We've still been trying to connect within the local community and try to find any support that we can. But I feel like from our perspective, Tech Alliance has been probably the most helpful.
Great. Do you think it's important for the technology community in London to connect? Why or why not?
I think it's very important. I think sometimes, I'm new to the city. I only came here about 5 or 6 years ago now. Actually been this long.
Yeah.
It's surprising. But as somebody coming from a different city, very different background, it can sometimes feel a bit homogeneous. So I find that having events around technology, around businesses, around what you're doing, lets you connect more to the community and grow your presence. And honestly, everything that came to us, to our company, that's been good. It's been through basically networking and connections and developing those connections and establishing these strong relationships. So I think it's absolutely important that things like this, continue to happen.
That's great. Is there anything, what's one thing you'd want your viewers to know about you or your company?
There's a lot of things.
You can pick more than one.
So something about my company. I think that the really interesting thing about Yuser is that we're trying really hard to kind of come at the influencer, the social media sharing space from a very, very different angle. And a lot of people are always asking us, how is this different than Instagram? And one thing that I always try to explain to people is that Facebook and Instagram, one thing that they did and did really, really well, don't get me wrong, is to have this consumer targeted ads. But what happens is that when you have a sort of feed like on Instagram where you have the pictures and then you intersperse that with ads, the content that gets diminished is the content of users that are actually, increasing their presence for free. This is very detrimental to the network growth at the end of the day, and this is why kind of social networks very often have this, we call it expiry date, where eventually, the trade-off for the users is just too much. So they leave the network, they go somewhere else, they find another place. Whereas we came, when we started creating Yuser, we sort of fathomed that there was another way to do it, and the way would be to strategically align our business model as a company with that of the well-being of our users, essentially. So we're trying to approach it from that angle, and I think this is something that a company like Instagram would just not be able to replicate because they would have to flip their business model on their head. So this is something that I always like to share about Yuser, because I am really passionate about making sure that people kind of get that we are all creative people, and this is perhaps the thing about me, is that I am a creative person, I am a novelist. I have a master's in creative writing. I write stories, and I really like kind of like sci-fi and futuristic fiction. And this is probably why I'm also so passionate about blockchain.
Yeah.
So being a creative myself, I can relate to that, to not being able to grow your following, not knowing what's going on. You start being on one platform, and then all of a sudden there's the next platform, and to what end? Why can't we be owners of our communities online as well as offline? I think that's a big new step, and I hope that to a certain extent blockchain technology is going to allow us to do that.